Heartwarming moment revealed. Little girl asks waitress to be her mom while dad's life-changing struggles unfold. Ella looked out into the bustling diner, her bright eyes catching the fading afternoon light streaming through the window. Every week, she and her dad, Tom, settled into their booth at Sally's Diner, where the clatter of plates mingled with laughter and the smell of fried food hung in the air. This was their ritual, a slice of normalcy amidst the chaos of life since her mother left. Tom, a rugged man with tired eyes that told countless stories, worked hard, sometimes overlapping shifts just to keep their heads above water. And yet, through it all, Ella's imagination painted their world in vibrant colors. On this ordinary afternoon, Ella spotted Sarah, the waitress with warm hazel eyes and a smile like sunshine. She had a spark in her that lifted the spirits of anyone who crossed her path. Ella's heart fluttered. The diner's regulars, the grizzled old men at the counter, the gossiping women in the corners, caught glimpses of something brewing in her small mind. As Sarah filled their mugs with coffee and delivered their plates piled high with pancakes, Ella couldn't hold back her curiosity any longer. "Will you be my mom?" Ella asked, the sweet innocence of her tone echoing through the diner like a bell. Silence fell, eyes darted around, and a collective breath caught in the throats of diners. Tom went rigid. The weight of Ella's words crashed into him, harder than he anticipated. He felt an ache in his chest and the blush of embarrassment creeping up his neck. The tighter he gripped his coffee cup, the more he felt the world around him blending into a blur of concerned faces and murmurs. Couldn't they see he was trying his best? Couldn't they see the cracks forming in his facade of strength? Sarah, taken off guard, looked at Tom and then back at Ella, whose big blue eyes shimmered with hope. This was not just a question, it was a plea. Ella longed for love, for connection, for someone to fill the void that had lingered since her mother walked away. Sarah could feel her heart tugging in response to Ella's sincere wish, but could she step into those shoes? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening," Sarah cut in, her voice steady despite emotions swirling around her. "YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the laughter from Ella's playful interaction with Sarah broke the heavy silence, Tom felt a swell of conflicting emotions. A torrent of shame rose within him. What kind of dad was he, losing his grip on reality and watching his daughter yearn for love? Amid the busy diner, the hum of life continued, but Tom was trapped in his thoughts. Would his pride allow him to redefine what family looked like? Could Sarah offer the warmth his daughter craved, or would Tom's own reluctance push them further apart? With the community around him witnessing everything, a flicker of hope ignited in Tom's heart. It was the first spark he had felt in a long time. As Ella giggled with Sarah, both weaving together an unexpected connection, Tom began to confront the very essence of what it meant to be a father. Maybe, just maybe, vulnerability could lead to strength. As Ella's laughter melded with the sounds of clinking silverware, the question loomed heavy: what would Tom sacrifice to embrace the family he so desperately needed? An uncertain path lay ahead, and as the diner buzzed with conversations, one thing was clear: change was on the horizon. Tom's fingers slipped from the warm coffee cup as his thoughts raced. That childlike request still rang in the air, echoing against the backdrop of clinking cutlery and murmurs of surprised patrons. How many times had he tried to be everything Ella needed? The truth loomed heavy: he couldn't do it alone. Sarah hesitated, sensing the tension. She smiled gently at Ella, fighting the knot in her throat. "That's a big question, sweetie," she finally replied, struggling to keep her tone light. "What do you think makes a mom?" Ella's brows furrowed, her little face tilting slightly as she considered it seriously. "Someone who hugs you when you're sad and knows your favorite kind of ice cream," she stated matter-of-factly. And who reads bedtime stories? Tom could feel his heart twist. He remembered Ella's disappointed faces when bedtime stories were missed, when fatigue pulled him under, and he couldn't muster the energy to turn the pages. That yearning look of hers, as she clutched a worn-out book, plagued him. What kind of dad was he, really? Caught in thought, he looked over at Sarah. The waitress was leaning closer to Ella, her expression softening. "I think you'd make an amazing little girl for any mom," she said warmly. "But your dad is so lucky to have you." Tom felt a rush of gratitude for her kindness, yet the pang of jealousy crept in. Could he really accept that someone else could fill that maternal void? But Ella's gaze sparkled with hope, and something inside Tom began to crack. Maybe it was time to let someone in. "You know, Ella," he started, his voice shaky but resolute, "what if we asked Miss Sarah for a few extra story nights? Just until we figure this all out?" Ella's eyes widened, filling with joy. "Really, Dad? That would be super fun." Sarah's smile brightened as she nodded. "I'd love that. And I can bring snacks too. Ice cream is always a good choice for story time, right?" Tom couldn't help but smile back, feeling the tension ease slightly. Perhaps there was room in their world for another person to share the adventure of life with them. The diner continued its rhythm, the laughter and chatter wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Tom watched as Ella animatedly chatted with Sarah, her laughter chiming through the diner. For the first time in a while, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe the walls he had built to protect his little family didn't have to be so high, but as Ella leaned into Sarah's conversation, a nagging thought grazed the edges of Tom's mind. Would this new connection be a bridge or a wall for their family? As he observed them, questions formed. How would he share the vulnerability he had always guarded? And could he trust someone else to fill a role that had felt so rigidly defined? The more he pondered, the more the desire for connection grew stronger, intertwining with fear. What would the price for opening his heart be? As laughter and excitement enveloped the diner, Tom felt the shift within himself, both thrilling and terrifying. The next chapter loomed, waiting for him to take a step forward. Would he dare to open up to the possibilities staring back at him, or retreat into the shadows of self-doubt? With a deep breath, he realized, change was indeed on the horizon, but could it be the kind of change that healed rather than broke? Tom felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders like a heavy coat, the warmth of the diner contrasting sharply with the chill of his unease. He watched Ella, her laughter infusing color into the dull walls of uncertainty that had surrounded him for so long. It was like watching a flower bloom, vibrant and beautiful, despite the rocky soil beneath. "Are we gonna do this every week?" Ella bounced excitedly in her seat, her eyes twinkling at Sarah. The waitress smiled, clearly flattered by Ella's enthusiasm. Tom couldn't help but notice how naturally they connected, two bright spirits sharing a moment untouched by the complexities of adulthood. "But what if you have other things to do?" Ella's voice held a hint of worry now. "Like, what if you have a second job?" Tom's heart sank again. He couldn't shake the feeling that in welcoming Sarah into their lives, he might be creating a new set of complications. He wanted to scream that everything was fine, that he could handle it. But they both knew he couldn't. No. We can make this work." Tom reassured her, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. "Miss Sarah is a superhero. She can juggle lots of things, right?" Sarah chuckled, her eyes dancing with mischief. "That's right. Superhero in disguise, just for you." She winked at Ella, who giggled and leaned closer, forgetting Tom's moment of hesitation. As she shared stories of her own childhood, how she would stay up late reading and sneaking ice cream when her parents weren't looking, Tom felt a part of him loosen. They had sparked something in Ella, a connection that could be pure magic. Yet, the fear began to crawl back. Could he handle being laid bare, needing help in an arena he once thought he ruled alone? With every story that flowed from Sarah's lips, Tom inhaled a mixture of admiration and resentment. He could see how much Ella was drawn to her, like a moth to a flame. And he couldn't deny a voice in him that whispered she could fill gaps he felt utterly incapable of touching. Deep within, longing battled against fear. "Dad," Ella called, pulling him from his spiraling thoughts. "Do you think Miss Sarah can come to my birthday party?" Tom's chest tightened. Birthday parties had always been a big deal. They were a celebration of family, just them. But now, Ella's innocent question forced him to confront an evolving reality. What if there was someone who could be part of their celebration of love, a guest who could enrich their little family? "Sure, why not?" Tom replied, surprised by the confidence in his own voice. The edge of fear softened just a bit as he spoke. "We can all celebrate together." Ella squealed with delight, clapping her hands and rocking in her seat. The diner felt smaller, warmer, as joy radiated from her. "What about if I make the invitations?" she continued, her imagination racing ahead. "I can make drawings of cupcakes and ice cream." "Great idea," Sarah encouraged, her eyes lighting up, and Tom noticed the way she leaned in closer to Ella, listening intently. It sent warmth through his chest but also an undeniable twinge of concern. Would they be okay? Would he be okay? As he sipped his coffee, now lukewarm and forgotten, he felt an invisible tether pulling them all together. Maybe there was something beautiful waiting beyond his self-imposed boundaries. A life where scars could heal with laughter and love. He took a deep breath, ready to venture into the unknown spaces forging between them. But as the laughter rose around him, another realization dawned. Sharing this joy might mean letting down his guard completely. Would he be ready for that? With determination burning underneath the layers of doubt, Tom wondered what it would take to embrace the change. What would it mean for him to let this new, unexpected bond flourish? Outside, shadows began lengthening, the day giving way to night. The question lingered in the air, as thick as the scent of coffee: could he allow the warmth of someone else to seep into their lives, or would that new warmth leave him feeling cold and alone? The next few days passed in a blur for Tom. The echo of laughter from the diner lingered in his mind, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Yet the quiet moments, after Ella fell asleep, brought a flood of thoughts that swept him off his feet. He had just gotten used to the rhythm of two, and now there was a chance of adding someone new. What would that mean for him and Ella? He could already hear her excited voice, cycling endlessly through her plans for the birthday party. She wanted balloons, games, and a big cake. Most of all, she wanted Sarah there, someone she could look up to and share her secrets with. Yet, every time he thought of Sarah, a knot would twist in his stomach. He was torn. In the daytime hustle of work, he could push the worries aside, but at night, they returned with a vengeance. Who was he to think he could expand the family he had quietly crafted? He was just a dad, still learning how to navigate the waters of single parenthood, filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Ella's birthday was approaching faster than he anticipated. The excitement radiating from her was contagious, but it also reminded him of everything at stake. They had a routine, a world built on the small acts of love that felt safe and predictable. Could he bring Sarah into their sanctuary without risking everything? One evening, as he stared blankly at the wall, Ella burst into the living room, her drawings clutched in her tiny hands. "Look, Dad. I made invitations." A swirl of crayon colors revealed cupcakes, balloons, and one special drawing, the figure of a woman with a big smile, arms wide open. Tom felt his heart skip. Was Sarah really becoming part of this? "They're beautiful, sweetie," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Can you give one to Miss Sarah tomorrow?" Ella's expectant gaze pierced through him. With a shaky breath, Tom nodded. "Of course. I'll give it to her." That night, he tossed and turned, grappling with the decision he had made. Was it really just about Ella's happiness? Or was it about confronting the demons that had kept him isolated? The sun broke through as he drove Ella to school the next morning. They made small talk, but in his mind, he was rehearsing how to approach Sarah. What if she didn't want to be part of their lives? What if he was reading her wrong, and the connection they seemed to share was one-sided? But Ella's innocent hope filled the car, nudging him to take that leap of faith. Once they reached the diner, he inhaled deeply, feeling the warmth of the morning sun mixed with the scent of coffee. As he stepped through the door, the familiar ambience of laughter and cheerful chatter surrounded him. "Good morning, Tom." "Ella." Sarah called out, her voice laced with genuine joy. When she spotted Ella's drawings, her eyes lit up. "What do you have there, my little artist?" Ella proudly handed over one of the colorful invitations. "It's for my birthday party. You're invited." At that moment, something shifted in Tom. He watched Sarah kneel down, her radiant smile embracing Ella, and for the first time, he felt a tiny crack in the wall that had held him captive. "What do you say, Miss Sarah? Are you free that day?" Tom asked, his heart racing. Just as Sarah opened her mouth to reply, the diner door swung open, startling them. A new customer walked in, their eyes shifting towards the doorway. Tom felt the ground beneath his feet shift again, uncertainty crawling back. What now? Would this disrupt the magic brewing between them? The question hung heavily in the air, waiting to be answered. Tom's heart raced as he watched Sarah's expression shift from eager anticipation to surprise. What could this newcomer's presence mean for their conversation? He felt uneasy, as if the world was conspiring against him, and the moment he had waited for was slipping through his fingers. The door swung shut behind the newcomer, a tall figure wrapped in a long coat. As they moved deeper into the diner, Tom's initial discomfort faded into curiosity. The person was older, perhaps in their 60s, with a weathered face that told stories of a life well lived. The room was abuzz with greetings, but Tom focused on Sarah. She'd been about to say something meaningful, something that could change everything for him and Ella. I'll get the coffee," Sarah said, breaking eye contact as she stood up, her smile faltering like a flickering light. She rushed toward the counter, where the short-order cook was already reaching for the coffee pot. Tom felt a mix of relief and disappointment wash over him. He had worked up the courage to ask whether Sarah would consider joining their small family. Their shared moments had felt so perfect, so effortless. Yet now, it seemed like fate was teasing him, hanging a dream just out of reach. "Ella," he said, kneeling beside her as she returned to coloring. "Why don't we go to see what the special is today?" He hoped to distract her from the tension that filled the air. Ella looked up, her eagerness undeterred. "Okay. Can we have pancakes?" "Sure." Tom smiled, trying to maintain his composure. He led her toward the counter, where Sarah was pouring coffee into a steaming mug, glancing at Tom with a mix of warmth and uncertainty. As they approached, the old customer leaned over the counter and asked for a pair of homemade blueberry muffins. "My sweet Amelia loves these," he said. Tom felt a pang of longing. What would it be like to offer such sweetness to someone? Could he create the same warmth and love in Ella's life with Sarah? When Sarah finally turned her full attention to them, she knelt back down to Ella's level, her smile returning. "Can you tell me more about your party? Those invitations look amazing." Ella's face lit up. "We're gonna have fun games, and Dad makes the best cake. You'll love it, Miss Sarah." Tom's heart swelled as he watched his daughter share her excitement. In that moment, it felt like they were building a bridge between their worlds. "Are you sure you want me to come?" Sarah asked, her voice softer now, almost vulnerable. The sincerity in her eyes made Tom's heart skip again. Was she hesitant? Or was it that she felt the weight of the connection they shared? "Yeah." Ella beamed, waving her little arms dramatically. "You can be my special guest." Tom caught Sarah's glance, waiting for her reply. There was a silence, a precious moment where the weight of everyone's expectations seemed to collide. Tom knew Ella was extending a heartfelt invitation, but what was Sarah really feeling? "I'd love to," she finally exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "Thank you, Ella. Relief surged through Tom, but it didn't last long. A small group of customers at a nearby table glanced over, whispering and laughing. It reminded him that they were still in public, people were watching, judging. And that thought twisted in his gut. Just when he was about to breathe freely, the familiar ring of the bell above the door sounded again. This time, it wasn't just a customer, it was someone from his past, someone who could upend everything he thought he knew. Tom's breath caught in his throat as the figure stepped into the diner, scanning the room. Would their arrival destroy the little progress he had made? Time seemed to freeze as uncertainty flooded his mind, the air thick with tension. Who was this person, and what did they want? The atmosphere shifted again and Tom could feel the heavy weight of the unknown pressing down on him. The figure took their time moving across the room, each step echoing sharply in Tom's mind. It was a woman, someone Tom hadn't seen in years, but her face was etched in his memory like the lines on his palms. Claire. The name felt like a gust of wind, both chilling and familiar. He had hoped their paths would never cross again, but here she was, standing in the diner, looking just as he remembered, sharp features, piercing eyes, and a confidence that could command attention. The laughter from nearby tables faded into whispers, a wave of curiosity rippling through the patrons. Tom could feel their eyes on him as he shifted anxiously, caught between the warmth of Sarah's presence and the chill Claire radiated. He instinctively reached for Ella's hand, squeezing it gently to anchor himself. Just a child, he thought, worried and clueless about the storm brewing just beyond her little world. Daddy? Ella's voice was sweet, but edged with confusion. Who's that lady? Tom's throat tightened. How could he explain the woman who had once meant so much and yet brought so much heartbreak? Just an old friend, he managed to say, his mind racing. Sarah looked up, catching the anxious glimmer in Tom's eyes. Are you okay? She whispered, leaning closer, her voice tender with concern. He wanted to promise her that everything was fine, but he couldn't tear his gaze away from Claire as she approached. Every step felt like a countdown to potential disaster. Claire stopped just a few feet away, her eyes locking onto Tom with a mixture of surprise and something more complicated, regret, perhaps, or maybe a hint of hope. Tom, she said softly, her voice carrying an undeniable weight. Claire, he replied, trying to sound steady when his heart was racing. What are you doing here? I was just passing through, she said, her gaze drifting towards Ella. I saw the sign outside. Didn't he expect to find you here, of all places? Tom felt an overwhelming urge to shield Ella from any impending storm. He stepped closer to his daughter, guarding her innocence from the suddenly heavy atmosphere. Ella, why don't you go find a seat? I'll be right there, he said, nudging her gently towards a nearby booth. He needed a moment, a breath to figure out how to keep this encounter from derailing everything. As Ella trotted off, Tom turned his full attention back to Claire. What do you want? His voice was firm, the tension palpable. I want to talk, she replied, searching his eyes for something. It's been years since we last spoke. I know things ended badly, but I didn't come here to cause trouble. Tom narrowed his eyes. Then what, Claire? What is there left to say? The weight of her silence stretched between them, heavy with unsaid words. The diner's chatter faded into the background, creating a cocoon around them filled with history and unresolved feelings. Would Sarah still want to be part of his life after this? Before he could brace himself for the fallout, Sarah appeared, coffee in hand. She was beaming, completely unaware of the collision course unfolding. I got extra cream for you, Tom, she said cheerfully, only to stop when she realized the tension. Everything okay? Just a bit of history, Tom said, his voice betraying none of the turmoil brewing inside him. Claire took a step back, letting the moment rest. Tom saw something flicker in her expression. Apology? Longing? He couldn't tell. I just wanted to see you again, she finally said, softer now, almost vulnerable. Why now? Because I have something to say. Tom's heartbeat thudded in his ears as he prepared himself for whatever revelation was about to follow, while Sarah's innocent smile lingered in his mind. Could her presence and Claire's words collide in a way that shattered everything he had built? Just tell me the truth, he urged, sensing the fragile balance of his world teetering on the brink. And in that moment, Tom realized sometimes the past doesn't just come knocking, it barrels through the door. Tom. Claire's voice almost cracked as she searched for the right words. He felt the weight of their past and the uncertainty of the future pressing hard against him. This was not the reunion he'd imagined. He glanced back at Sarah, her smile slowly fading as the tension hung thick in the air. What would she think of this? What would Ella feel? It felt like they were all trapped in a bubble just waiting for the pin to pop. I didn't know how to reach you, Claire continued, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her jacket. I've thought about you, a lot. I just wanted to explain things. Tom clenched his jaw, uncertain whether he wanted to listen. Explain what? Everything that happened back then. I was scared and made horrible choices. I thought time would heal it all, but it only made things worse. Her eyes glistened, vulnerable in ways he hadn't expected. I didn't handle our breakup well, and I regret it every day. Regret doesn't change anything, Tom shot back, his voice sharper than he intended. I know. But I also realized I've been running. I didn't come here as a way to disrupt your life, I came because I've had time to think and grow. I can't let it just sit anymore. There are things I need to say for my own peace, and she paused, glancing at Ella, who was blissfully at her booth, coloring in a little book. For hers too. Tom followed her gaze, and for a heartbeat, he felt a flicker of sympathy toward Claire despite the storm of emotions. Ella was innocent, untouched by the mess of adult relationships, and yet she too was a victim of the shadows of their past. What about her? Tom asked, gesturing toward Ella. What do you think seeing you again will do to her? Claire sighed, visibly crumbling. That's why I came. I need her to understand that it wasn't her fault, none of it was her fault. Tom felt a swell of emotions rising up, bubbling into anger mixed with an aching compassion. So what, you just want to waltz back into our lives? You think you can fix everything with a few words? I don't know. Claire's voice broke, echoing in the diner. Heads turned, but she didn't seem to care. I just want to try. I never stopped caring about you, Tom. Or Ella. I want to be honest now. The weight of her confession hung in the air, and Tom felt the air squeeze from his lungs. He wanted to scream at her, tell her how her absence had hurt him. But a part of him, a tiny flicker of what they once had, couldn't deny the truth buried in her words. Honesty, after all this time? Tom's voice softened, even as his heart raced. What does that even look like? What do you expect from me? Claire closed the distance, her voice almost a whisper. I expect you to listen. To give me the chance to explain how much I'm sorry. I need to be better, for you, and for Ella. As he looked into her eyes, Tom caught a glimpse of the girl he once loved, who had turned into this woman before him, battered by life while still holding a flicker of determination. He felt a rush of vulnerability, the possibility of hope colliding with anxiety. Then Sarah, sensing the shift, stepped closer, her hand brushing against his arm. Tom, maybe we should go. No, he said, the word escaping before he could stop it. Maybe we should hear her out. Sarah blinked, surprise coloring her expression. And just like that, his heart twisted. The moment hung between them like a fragile thread waiting to snap. Okay, Claire, he said, steeling himself. Let us see what you have to say. Just then, a loud crash erupted from Ella's booth as she knocked over her juice. Both adults turned at the sound, their previous conversation instantly overshadowed by the innocent chaos. I can't clean that up. Ella giggled, her wide eyes sparkling. Tom winced, momentarily distracted from the gravity of their situation. But the innocent laughter was a bittersweet reminder. Could any of them clean up the messy world they were tangled in? As he started to make his way toward Ella, he felt Claire's gaze follow him. There stood both women in his life, each a bright light in their own right but connected by tangled shadows. And right then, he knew, this was only the beginning. With uncertainty clinging heavily around them, a question echoed in Tom's mind: could this moment open the door to a future he never thought possible? Ella's laughter filled the diner, light and carefree. Tom rushed over, wiping the juice off the table, but his heart was still caught in a whirlwind of emotions from Claire's words. The sticky beverage shimmered under the fluorescent light, chaotic and messy just like the conversation he was having. "Ella, hon, are you okay?" he asked, forcing a smile as he dried her hands with a napkin. "Look, Daddy!" Ella exclaimed, pointing to the colorful streaks her juice made on the table. "It's like art." Tom glanced up, taking in her joy. She had the ability to see beauty in the simplest of things, while he struggled to find clarity in the complexity of adulthood. "Yeah, it's, very creative," he replied, unconsciously stealing a glance at Claire. She was watching him, her expression a mix of hope and trepidation. It pulled at something deep within him. "Do you think Claire's juice art is better than mine?" Ella asked, her tiny brow furrowed in faux seriousness. "Claire," Tom said, feeling both the weight of her presence and the lightness of his daughter. "What comes next?" Claire stepped forward, her words tumbling out like marbles rolling off a table. "I want to be back in her life, Tom. I want to be a part of Ella's story again, if she'll let me." "Just like that?" he challenged, his heart pounding. "You vanished for years, and now you want to return as if nothing happened?" Sarah shifted, concern etched on her face. "Tom, maybe we should think this through," she said, louder than necessary, a hint of uncertainty slipping through her facade, but his mind was racing, and the walls he had built started to crack. "Do you think she really means it?" he asked her, desperate for some sort of grounding. "Of course," Ella chirped, looking between the two adults. "I want Claire to come to my next dance recital." "Right, Dad? It will be so much fun." The innocence in Ella's voice held power. It cut through all the anger and doubt swirling inside him. Could a dance recital really bridge the years of silence between them? "Ella, sweetie," Tom started, but lost his words as he looked down at his daughter, her big eyes holding such brightness, so sure of her desires. Claire watched them, her jaw tense, as if the growing intimacy between father and daughter was both a delight and a source of pain for her. "I was wrong to leave. I thought I was protecting you both when really, I was just being selfish. I've missed so much. Being back in her life, it's not that simple," Tom said, clenching his fists to suppress all the bubbling feelings. "But it should be." Ella piped in, her innocence a fierce counter to the heaviness of their past. "I want a mom and you wanted a mom too. Right, Daddy?" A lump formed in his throat as he looked at Claire, who looked like she was fighting tears. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about their daughter, the very embodiment of both their joys and mistakes. "You don't understand what it's like," Tom said, his voice a mix of frustration and confusion. "It's not just let us be a family again. Those threads are tangled. Can we even untangle them?" Claire opened her mouth to respond, but the words stayed trapped in her throat. It felt like a pause in time, as if the diner had held its breath along with them. Suddenly, the waitress approached, breaking the tension. "Can I get you anything else?" she asked, glancing nervously between the three of them. "Yes," Ella exclaimed. "Can you get Claire a hot chocolate? It'll make her feel better. It always works for me." Everyone paused. The waitress blinked at the childlike hope in Ella's eyes and nodded. It was a small moment, but it felt big, like a door creaking open just a bit, letting a sliver of light in. As the waitress walked away, Tom's heart raced with a realization. Could Claire really become part of Ella's world again? And did he dare risk it? Ella, he whispered, still trying to process it all. She looked up at him with such love and trust that in that moment, Tom felt both lost and found. What if he was wrong about Claire? What if opening up could lead to something beautiful? In the distance, Ella was giggling again, the innocent laughter ringing like music, begging him to imagine a future where all of them could coexist without the shadows of the past burdening them. But somewhere deep inside, uncertainty lingered like an unfinished song. Might I be ready to take that risk? He pondered silently, caught in the tide of possibility. Could this chaotic web of relationships transform into something delicate and beautiful? And more importantly, was he ready to let it? The hot chocolate arrived, steaming and frothy, the aroma sweet and comforting. Ella beamed, her joy infectious. "See, Claire. It's the magic drink," she announced, handing the cup over like a trophy. Claire took it gingerly, her fingers brushing against the child's small hand, a moment suspended in hope. "Thank you, Ella," Claire said softly, tears pooling in her eyes. Ella grinned wider, oblivious to the weight of the past hanging in the air. Tom caught the brief connection between them, a flicker of something he hadn't seen in years, a semblance of motherly love, then reality returned, fierce and demanding. "Do you really want to be back in her life?" he asked Claire, his voice low and steady, but the urgency behind it crackled like electricity. It felt both necessary and terrifying. "Yes," Claire replied, her voice more assured now. "I've thought about this every day, Tom, every single day." He swallowed hard, his throat dry. "But what does that even look like? You can't just pop in and out like it's a game. You left, Claire." The gravity of their history hung between them, a tether he desperately wanted to cut yet felt anchored by. "Ella deserves to know her mom, even if I made mistakes," Claire said. "We both did." At that moment, Tom shifted his gaze to Ella, who was eagerly stirring her hot chocolate. She was blissfully unaware of the tumult just beneath the surface. For her, it was all about art on the table and dance recitals. She didn't know what a broken family felt like, she only knew what it was like to love. "Daddy," Ella chimed in as she sipped her drink, her eyes sparkling, "can I show Claire my dance moves? I practice so much, and I'm really good." Tom's heart swelled with pride for his daughter, but his insides twisted. Ella's innocent ambition felt like a plea to mend their fractured hearts. "Sure, sweetie, after you finish your hot chocolate," he managed, knowing it was more than just dance moves. This was crossing into uncharted territory. "But you have to promise me to always be here, Claire." Ella's voice was firm, and it pulled at Tom's heart. She leaned forward, earnest and trusting. "I don't want you to go away again." A chasm opened at the words, an emotional earthquake shifting the ground beneath them. Tom's gaze shot to Claire, who now looked broken. "I promise," Ella, Claire began, voice trembling, "I won't disappear again." Tom wanted to believe her. But doubt clung to him like a shadow. Could a promise really bear the weight of their past? Could Claire overcome years of absence with mere words? "I don't know if it can be that easy, Claire," he said carefully, trying to shield Ella from the turmoil he felt. "Words are just words. What matters is action." Ella, sipping the last drops of her hot chocolate, looked between them, her little brow furrowed in confusion. "But it can be easy, right? If we all just try?" The heaviness in the air swelled with emotion. Tom felt the walls come up again, the questions pressing hard against his mind. Was trying enough? Could they really all fit together like the happy family Ella dreamed of? Without missing a beat, Claire replied, "Ella's right. We can try, Tom. Just let us try." He was torn between longing and caution. There were so many layers to unravel, so much to lose. Then, just as he was about to fill the silence with objections, Ella burst forth with an idea that filled the diner with warmth. Maybe we can have a family art day. Her excitement lit the room. We can paint and dance and make everything pretty again. Tom looked at her, seizing onto the thin thread of hope. Could they really start fresh with something as simple as painting? As Claire nodded, enthusiasm replacing her earlier sorrow, Tom's heart squeezed. Could this fragile optimism survive the weight of reality? Was it possible? But doubt lingered, reminding him how easily dreams could shatter. And just then, the door swung open with a loud jingle. A figure stepped in, shaking off snowflakes from a winter coat, glancing up with a familiar smile. Tom's stomach dropped. "Hey everyone. I thought I'd come by and see how it's going." It was Jenna, the spirited waitress from the other day, who suddenly looked very interested in their table. Would her presence draw an even bigger bridge between Tom, Claire, and their daughter, or would it complicate things further? Jenna's bright smile dimmed slightly as she registered the tension settling over the table. Oh, did I miss something?" she asked, her jovial tone muddled with concern. The diner sounds faded for a moment, all eyes now on the three of them. Tom felt the weight of the moment pressing down again. How much more could he handle? Just when he thought they might be untangling the mess of their lives, they were thrown back into unfamiliar territory. "Everything's fine," Ella announced, her voice ringing with innocence. "We're just planning a family art day." Tom glanced at Claire, whose expression shifted from uncertainty to amusement at Ella's enthusiastic proclamation. In some way, both of them felt pulled into the innocent hope of their daughter's dream. Jenna, looking for clarity, focused on Tom, an eyebrow raised. "Art day, huh? That sounds fun," she said, attempting to lighten the atmosphere. "What do you think, Claire?" Claire looked at Jenna, momentarily thrown by her presence but then quickly found her footing. "I think it's a great idea," Claire replied, her voice steadying. "Art creates space for connection, right?" Tom appreciated that she was making an effort. Maybe this was a chance for an even deeper discussion, not just about their past, but about stepping into the future together. Ella's excitement bubbled over again. "We can all make pictures, and you can both come to my recital. And then we can hang up all the art at home." Together, they sat in that moment, hearts yearning for the lightness found in Ella's laughter. Tom glanced at Sarah, who had been patiently observing, her warm hazel eyes capturing the scene unfolding. She seemed a steady presence, her breath held as she absorbed the shift. "Tom," Jenna broke into his thoughts, her eyes shining with encouragement, "would you like to do some art too?" He chuckled softly. "I barely have the artistic talent of a crayon-drawing toddler, Jen." But inside, he felt a tiny fire spark, a vision of brush strokes and laughter, an image that felt surprisingly comforting. "Doesn't it matter?" Jenna grinned. "It's about being together. We can all make a mess and celebrate the joy of being a family." The way she said it ignited something in Tom, an unfamiliar warmth spreading deep within. As laughter began to flow, interjecting the heavy air, Claire took a moment, collecting herself. She felt increasingly at ease, drawn in by Ella's ebullience and the unexpected camaraderie. "I want to be part of this," Claire said, urging Tom to meet her gaze. "I want to show her how much she means to me, every single day. I know I have a lot to prove, but I hope we can build something together." Tom inhaled deeply. Each word from Claire felt like stepping stones across a river of uncertainty. "It won't be easy," he warned gently, glancing sideways at Jenna, who appeared ready to jump in if necessary. "Even hard things can be beautiful in process," Jenna said, the wisdom in her voice simple and profound. Turning back to Claire, Tom could see her resilience shining through. "If this is where we start," he relented, voicing a truth he didn't know he'd been afraid to admit, "I can try." Ella bounced with energy, squeezing their hands together. "It'll be the bestest art day ever." Against the backdrop of clinking glasses and fading sunlight filtering through the diner's windows, there, in that radiant moment, everything felt possible. Tom found a calm within the storm and acceptance that life wasn't perfect but could be filled with love. "Let us do it," he said firmly. "Let us make a family." An electrifying thrill coursed through him, and the possibility of healing hung in the air like the tantalizing smell of fresh coffee. As laughter erupted and plans were made, the diner transformed from a simple eatery into a playground of hope and renewal, spaces where pain could intermingle with joy, and hearts could grow closer despite the mess life had handed them. In that collective bubble, Tom looked at Ella, the little girl who had sparked all of this. Her bright-eyed spirit was the anchor. Could they really forge a new path together? Yes, he thought, feeling the balance of hope and uncertainty. Yes, they could. And with the waning sunlight casting a warm glow, they began to dream of tomorrows filled with laughter, art, and perhaps even family again. As the conversations blended into a soft hum around them, one thing became clear: together, they were ready to embrace what came next. Now more than ever, Tom realized that the past didn't have to define their future. It was simply part of their story, a story that was still being written. Would you join this journey? You need to subscribe now to keep up with our heartwarming stories. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Together, we can build a community filled with love and hope.